Hey guys, it's Z for Out of This Binary, and today we're talking about transphobia. So, some people think that transphobia doesn't affect non-binary people, or that it doesn't affect non-binary people as much as it does binary trans people. This is incorrect. Transphobia definitely affects us. Because if you're, say there is a transphobic cis person, they're not going to differentiate between whether you're non-binary or you're binary. If you're trans, if you're not cis, then you're labeled as a freak, wrong, messed up in the head, delusional, pervert, all these things. And it doesn't really matter, there are certain things which trigger transphobia from, cis people, and, some people argue, oh, non-binary people don't do this, so they don't have to deal with this reaction, except that's not really true. The only thing that non-binary people don't do that trans people do is be binary. So, what I'm trying to say is, for example, dealing with transphobic reactions to physical transition. Well, there are non-binary people who physically transition. So, yeah, non-binary people have to deal with that too. Not to mention that you can be perceived by transphobic people to be physically transitioning even if you're not, because secondary sexual characteristics people don't really fit neatly into one box or the other. So someone can naturally have breasts and facial hair, without hormone therapy, whether they're intersex or not. So, yeah. Non-binary people also have to deal with getting misgendered intentionally. Non-binary people also have to deal with violence. They also have to deal with discrimination in the workplace. They also have to deal with lack of proper medical care. All of these things, non-binary people have to deal with it too. So transphobia does affect non-binary people. I think that the reason why some people think transphobia doesn't affect non-binary people is because they think non-binary people aren't trans. Not all non-binary people identify as trans, but a lot of them do. And if a non-binary person identifies as trans, they're trans. But that's a whole nother video. There is actually a study. If you look up discrimination against non-binary people on Wikipedia, there is a Wikipedia article called Discrimination Towards Non-Binary Gender Persons. And it says that in a national study, in the National Transgender Discrimination Survey, it shows that non-binary people statistically more often are victims of transphobia than binary trans people. Some people might be like that, oh no, that's not true at all. But there was a study, a national study. I'll link it down below. But yeah, you should look at it. It's really surprising. Because, I guess there's this idea that non-binary people are closer to being cis than binary trans people, but that's not the case, and cis people don't see it that way. so it doesn't really affect the transphobia. Now, why there might be more non-binary people facing transphobia than binary trans people, I don't know. I feel like there's not enough research to know for sure. I have some ideas, because, like, you know, there are people who will, like, accept binary trans people, but think that non-binary trans people are delusional. Not to mention also, binary trans people have the ability to pass. So if they pass, then they don't, they usually don't, they don't get as much transphobia in their lives. And that's impossible for non-binary people to pass. So, yeah. Like, we all have to deal with transphobia in our lives. To different degrees, depending on where you live and who you spend your time with. But it's something that we've all experienced, which is really unfortunate. It's important to have your experiences validated either by yourself, self-validation, or by other people, to make sure that, you don't deserve transphobia and the things that people say to you, if they're saying, like, your gender doesn't exist, or if you're a freak, you're, any things that they say to you like that, they're wrong. And the most important part of shielding yourself from transphobia is to know that they're wrong. And transphobic remarks are wrong. And you are fine, the gender or lack of gender that you are. And don't let anyone make you believe you're not. Okay. So, yep, that's my video on transphobia. If you have any comments, please do comment. I'd love to have a conversation. Oh, and yeah, definitely read the link I put in the description. I'll see if I can come up with some more links on that study. Okay, bye.